Welcome back to track 2. Please welcome the moderator of this panel, the VP of Digital Commerce Innovation at ICP, Michael Wheeler.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to DAM. Please meet Commerce. Commerce, please meet DAM. You two need to get to know each other better. If you're looking for how regular DAM health checks can steer long-term DAM success, please head back to the Agenda tab and click Track 1. Again, my name is Michael Wheeman. I'm with ICP, and I look across our global digital commerce offerings. We have a distinguished group of panelists joining us for our discussion today, spanning pharma to retail to tech. I'd like to ask them to join us now on camera. We have Carrie with Abbott Healthcare, Georgina with Kingfisher, Tom with Woodwing, and Brad with Celtra. And I'd like to allow each a moment to introduce themselves. Georgina, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Georgina Grazier. I'm DAM Manager at Kingfisher PLC. If you haven't heard of us, you've probably heard of our retail brands, which are B&Q, Screwfix, Brico Depot and Castorama. We operate across Europe at the moment, and my role is being responsible for all things DAM, all things asset management, from kind of the specification through to the approval workflows in the system and how everything ends up with our customers.
Fantastic. Carrie?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Carrie Gilzine, Abbott Healthcare. I'm a regional engagement lead, and currently I'm managing departments relating to DAM, content, e-commerce, and of course, digital engagement. So that's a very short one from myself.
Excellent. Tom?
Yes, hi. So my name is Tom Pijssel. I'm a senior product manager at Woodwing, responsible for DAM and content creation strategies. And together with our global partner network, we help brands and retailers, publishers and agencies to optimize their content workflows and solve their so-called content spaghetti.
Excellent. And Brad?
Good morning, good afternoon. Brad Christus. I am the Global Director of the Enterprise Solutions team at Celtra. And at Celtra, we kind of fill this kind of creative gap around digital asset management and e-com, right? So we help to build out more variants and do a lot of content assembly through creative automation.
Excellent. Appreciate this. Great. We want to put our expert panelists to the test, so please send us your questions in the Q&A tab at any point throughout the session. Our panelists are going to try and fold the responses into the segments when they can, if applicable, and then we'll try to leave some dedicated time at the end to address questions as well. So let's get started. For most companies and organizations, DAM is now safely embedded as the single source of truth for visual and marketing materials. But with the shift to digital, direct-to-consumer selling, digital commerce in all its forms, as well as more integrated marketing management of traditional channels, DAM now finds itself as the bridge between two worlds of content and commerce. And so I'd like to start off with our first segment directly around content. Carrie, many of our attendees are going to be very familiar with conventional marketing content, TVCs, print, out of home, perhaps less familiar with content for commerce. You and I have talked about how Abbott is unique in pharma, selling online to both healthcare providers as well as consumers through retailers. So essentially business to business and business to consumer channels. And through that lens, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on one, the increasing types and volume of content required for e-commerce, the constituencies involved in its creation, management, and usage, and then the various outlets it serves across your consumer journeys.
Well, yeah, very, very broad topic. I began as kind of old school before e-commerce came to mainstream, much like most of you. But certainly with COVID, organizations now have accelerated, of course, digital e-commerce, as you know. And what we've seen, didn't anticipate, is we are generally producing 200, 300, 400, 500 times more content, or a 500% increase, let's say. And of course, because we've got to generate more content, there's quite a lot of pressure on the existing resources in the organization. And so, of course, we've had to look at designing different workflows. And of course, efficiency comes into play. Then, of course, as we look at those various channels, obviously optimizing infrastructure is needed with the right kind of kit, but there are certain overlaps between conventional marketing and what's unique to e-commerce, as of course many of you will know. So traditional TV, print, point of sale, physical sampling, all of that is fantastic. And what's died away is PR in the traditional way. And that's more or less being replaced by influencers, let's say. But of course, face-to-face, point of sale, you can tell if that person in front of you is very interested in the product you're trying to offer them. You can get feedback straight away. With e-commerce, of course, it's lots of guessing. If you don't have the right analytics, you don't understand your consumer. And then finally on that final point, e-commerce sometimes is more about driving people offline to do something online, which is a trick in itself, or of course trying to acquire folks online, the right ones, so they can do something which you desire, which will satisfy them. And then a couple of other thoughts, and I know Georgina has got some great experiences in some of these areas. So if we look at some of the main platforms, assuming you've got your own media channels and infrastructure, there are different types. So B2C, your brochures, your car website, your property websites, major catalogs, those are really, really content and volume hungry. And if you build it, certainly customers will come, and you're hoping they find what they want by somehow going through the thousands or millions of content that you've got on your site. So the relationship between content and money for these B2C and brochure type websites is very, very clear. And if we're looking at, of course, D2C, e-commerce, it's slightly different, as you're probably finding. Really need a deeper understanding of customer triggers, infrastructure to deal with smaller customers, which means huge volumes of content, as I've alluded to, 500% more at least with the same headcount. And for these smaller segments, you've got to have the content and the infrastructure to satisfy those smaller segments. And then my final point here is that's really important, because as you get to your funnel in your e-commerce and you try to achieve those conversions, it's more expensive at the point that that customer is in the funnel about to make a decision. So most spend and most content and most A/B testing is at the final end of the funnel when customer is about to make the decision. However, there is an argument, and this could be one of the takeaways you carry away with you, to look at your investment in terms of content and the customers before they get to that decision point in that funnel. So seeding preferences at an earlier stage in the funnel, or even before they get to the funnel. Of course, it requires much more content, but it's cheaper, so that by the time they are about to make some of those choices, you already have a good head start. So that's just really a clue for you all. No point spending $1 million ahead at the point at which they are about to decide. And that's, you know, something that we've managed to map and calculate very well here at Abbott. So I'll pass back to Georgina. Do you have any comments? I know you've got some good insights, and I might be right or wrong in terms of what I'm saying, but I'll just put myself out there.
Yeah, so for us, I agree with what you said there, Kerry. For us, the predominantly 80% of the content we make is product focused. So that obviously has a digital first lens on it, because it ultimately has to go on a PDP page. I wouldn't say that's potentially the right percentage. And I think at the moment we're definitely on a journey where we've always been tasked with creating more content, and that being what customers want. And I think at the moment we're definitely going through a period of change to find what the right content is for each of those product groups. And yeah, so all of the content we make ultimately is transversal. It can be used across all of our banner companies and all of our websites. That's really important. But yeah, as I say, the focus at the moment is definitely honing those guidelines and making sure we're creating the right content for each product type and for each of our customer sets as well.
Great. And Georgina, I know as a retailer, you and Jess Store present not only your own company content, but content for brand manufacturers whose products you sell online. For so maybe some of our attendees that have been more familiar with running a more internally focused DAM, how does this impact your day-to-day with the internal and the external constituencies that are not only creating, but also own this content, some of those external parties or suppliers?
Yes, I think fundamentally it's having the right guidelines and making sure that's available both to production companies who work with us on our internal brands, and also to the vendors who supply us with external content for the international brands we sell. The consistency is key for us to make sure that products look the same regardless of where the content's come from on front end is really key. So yes, it's all around the guidelines and the governance of the content types that we put out there, really.
Okay. Very insightful. Brad, I know you've got a particular focus in automated creation to address the ever-expanding demand for e-commerce content. I'd love to hear your perspective on how this demand impacts the volume of content required to support e-commerce and the types of content that may actually need to be stored in order to enable the automation.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what Carrie said and Georgina said, right? These are content-hungry applications, right? So you have this kind of creative gap, and kind of what's fueling that is, product, new products, what Georgina was mentioning, right? To content refreshes, leveraging existing content, to all of these crazy channels that are out there, right? It's pretty sad that I'm on TikTok now, but it's pretty interesting with different content that's out there. So, and what we're seeing is, regardless if it's static or dynamic or animated, right? You need to have kind of that content refresh so you don't provide dull creatives for your users, right? Because you want to interact with these folks. So, we see that all the time with our customers, right? Regardless if the content lives inside the DAM, how do we accelerate that, get it out to those e-commerce places for consumption, right? So.
Great.
And if I may, Michael, that's a really good point, because this could be important for the audience, and we might touch on it later. Our e-commerce department, they seem to be much more sensitive to the type and quality of content produced by the organization compared to marketing. And maybe that's because their bonus and their metrics and all sorts are tied to that. And the marketing colleagues, of course, are very focused on the predefined processes, develop the brand strategy, develop look and feel, manage the agencies, deliver some of that content. And then it falls to our DAM colleagues to try to make it all work. But of course, where things falls down, and certainly gaps I've seen in many organizations, is I don't know, a marketing cloud customer journey might be designed that takes that has, I don't know, 15 emails, and no one has accounted for the cost of making those emails, how those components might come together, the DAM assets required, and even the approval. So I think many organizations are not expecting the workload to land on them for the volume of content required. And it's a good opportunity for our DAM practitioners really to position themselves in order of saying, this is what we're forecasting in terms of activity. This is how we can enable you as an organization to achieve the content velocities, which you don't know, you don't realize that you need. And why wait until it hits you in the face and then someone screaming at HR to get more headcount? Here is an idea for a different workflow. Here is an idea of how we can forecast that type of content velocity. here is some mapping of the approval times for this content that you're generating. So it's all this internal intelligence which organizations never ever had, which positions our DAM practitioners really to be recognized as an important chain within that business, as opposed to something that's not noticed unless it goes wrong. So yeah,
that's very insightful.
Just my soapbox.
No,
quickly expand on that. So that's also what we see, is that the content velocity requires good processes and tools to create your content efficiently. And secondly, if you create content for various channels, you need to store it in such a way that you can reuse the individual components of that content and adapt that story to the uniqueness of each channel. I think that's important to maintain.
That's a great point, and actually a nice transition to the next section that I'd like to take us to, which is specifically around DAM as a technology solution. And I would mention again for the attendees, please feel free to insert questions for us, and we'll try to address them within the presentation and the discussion, as well as at the end. Tom, so we've talked about how DAM has traditionally served as a source of marketing materials. We've talked about the distinctions around content for commerce, the stakeholders involved, potentially alluded to some of the foundational componentry that's required and the way to be stored. I'm curious, from your perspective, how has DAM as a technology solution evolved over time to meet and support the needs of e-commerce? And I'm thinking about things like facilitating creation and workflow, as we've just discussed, handling new asset types for commerce, storing product information potentially, or a portion of it, maybe organizing and presenting that content, or external syndication type of services. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, so what you see is that over the years, the DAM evolved from a basic library or a source for marketing material to a real omni-channel content platform. This also referred to as a DAM 3.0. And what we see that more and more the DAM is deeply integrated into the various content creation platforms, whether it's for social, it's for video, it's for print related content, but also it's linked towards for example, your PIM, your ERP systems, your business intelligence systems, to really be that central hub. While on the same hand, it doesn't mean that if you have this hub that all your users work in the PIM every day. So by implementing a DAM as a headless or hybrid DAM, people work, for example, in the PIM system to update metadata of a product, but this services in the DAM, and through the DAM it is also services in your e-commerce platforms. So I think this is very important trend to look at the DAM as an interconnected system.
And Brad, I know that you're specifically focused right now on automated creation, but I know you've got a background in DAM as well. Thoughts on maybe the integration points, as Tom alluded to, as a DAM as a player within this more complex tech stack?
Yeah, no, it's definitely come a long way from the days of Bulldog way back in the day. I think I'm dating myself, but no, I mean, the best quote I ever saw was, if content's not in motion, it's not very useful, right? So orchestration is key, period. It's one thing to capture all the content, and then you want to put governance around that information, and then you want to put it in motion, right? And constantly have it in motion, regardless if it's the creative process, regardless if it's going to an e-com site, or if you're interacting with a PIM system or an MRM system or an MDM system, right? So all of our customers have strategy or process around those things. And at its core, right, the foundation is that DAM that provides that governance, that where everything is kind of coming out of the source of the truth. And it's a matter of how you orchestrate those things through different business processes, whether it be e-com, creative, and so on and so forth. So it is key to put that content in motion, right?
Yeah, 100% agree. So I'd like to move on to talking about state of play within the enterprise, and maybe Georgina and Carrie, I'd like to bring you back in here. In a prior panel earlier this year, panelists shared that leveraging a single dam or even leveraging dam at all to support e-commerce wasn't necessarily a foregone conclusion in their enterprise. And considerations ranged to whether a dam already existed, if it did, which function owned it, could it be adapted to support e-commerce, and if other tools could actually serve their e-commerce asset management needs. And I actually had a similar experience in a prior role at Coca-Cola as we stood up what we called the product content ecosystem, which was in its most sophisticated form, DAM coupled with PIM, coupled with syndication, but also knowing that many of our markets were not as sophisticated as others and might have been able to do with something that was a little less of a robust, holistic solution. I know that Kingfisher and Abbott have already made the decision to leverage DAM to support e-commerce, and I'd love to hear where DAM fits within your commerce tech stacks, if you have one or several, and maybe who owns them. And Georgina, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So we started the Kingfisher Dam in 2017, and ultimately at that point, I think there was probably upwards of 15 or more smaller dams across the business. And I think, as you say, like leveraging content across the business was really key for us. I think there were some banners who had a lot bigger content spend than others, and ultimately we were creating content many times probably for the same tin of white paint, for example. So housing that all in one dam at group level was really important, and also then storing that image once, the rights for that image once, so that it could then be processed down onto all of our banner websites. It's definitely a journey. I'd say we're probably half of the way through, shutting down some of the smaller dams and using that consistency leverage of the group dam, and also utilizing the content as well that we create. People shouldn't have to download content and put it in another system to then publish it. Ultimately, the content's there in the group dam and it will publish out directly. Our integrations are primarily with PIM and our CDN, so that we can get that content onto our websites within a matter of minutes, really. And ultimately, if we need to change that content as well, which is really important, if there's any issues, whether that be trading standards or the color might be wrong for a random reason, we can get that changed again within minutes across all of our websites, which is really important. That knowledge at group then can then be passed across to all of our teams really efficiently.
Thanks for that. Carrie, how does DAM fit within your current tech stack? And I'd also love to hear, I know from our previous discussions, you've got some real insight into the drivers and considerations that really influence your decision on how to use the DAM, ROI, organizational changes, global versus local content needs, things like that. Would you like to chime in here?
Thank you, Michael. So Abbott as a business has highly regulated products, which of course are exposed to physicians and doctors. So very complex approval content processes, bags of references and scientific credibility and claims to back up. And at the same time, we also have a very successful consumer business where we are communicating with customers and the general public. So two types of activity simultaneously, which is what our single dam is doing, which is slightly different from most. And what I would probably say is most companies start out with the need to prove their content, and then they move to a way of storing their content. And most of the time, it's the marketing colleagues originating the content, and they just need somewhere to store it. So quotes I've been using quite frequently is, please stop storing your content on Microsoft Teams, first of all. And I'm sure you've all heard that. And that's mostly to marketing, and it takes a while for them to get it because they think it's convenient to do so. But also, at the same time, the importance of DAM in an organization needs a lot of effort and communicating because it's absolutely critical. So any DAM practitioner is going to need to be not just a technical specialist, but also a diplomat and also a rainmaker within that organization, highlighting the importance of DAM. And a lot of that is exposing the organization to future capabilities while alerting them to problems which are coming down the road. So I'll give a couple of examples. DAM, it requires electricity to run. IT would say electricity, great, that's a system, that should be in IT. So of course, for those of you in the audience out there, DAM should not lay with IT. Commercial folks would say we are commercial and maybe DAM should lie with us. No, it doesn't. It needs to be as close to marketing as possible because marketing spending the cash on the content and it's marketing. And of course, we all need a friend in the organization. It's marketing we align ourselves to so that we could deliver what they need first and foremost. Why? Because e-commerce have a high interest in DAM than marketing. And when something goes wrong and e-commerce teams don't get their bonuses or the content isn't right or the analytics which e-commerce are looking at, they will complain to marketing about the content first and foremost, and then marketing wouldn't know what to do. They'd probably be looking towards our DAM practitioners for potential solutions. And then of course, as we look at certain integrations, and again for you in the audience out there, having your approval capability and your DAM and your storage capability in one place is highly advantageous, because then you're able to, as Georgine's mentioned, apply capabilities like digital publishing. So digital publishing your website image directly to website, or your integration in terms of publishing your digital email content directly from DAM to your marketing cloud. Or if you're able to link your DAM to Interaction Studio, then it means you're able to not only have different types of content journeys, but it's possible to change the content within those journeys. That means one is really achieving smaller and smaller segments of customers, and that in turn gobbles up a huge amount of content. What do we not want? We do not want DAM practitioners not to have a voice, because if we don't, when the problems arise, it'll land on DAM folks who haven't got the budget or the political clout to fix the problems. And there'll be a little bit of passing the buck going on here and there. One other thing that I'd probably add as well, since we're talking about DAM to e-commerce, is if we are looking at, okay, so I've said to myself, we need a naming convention for all of our emails. And if we're sending, I don't know, 500,000 emails a year, that's just a wild number. We want to be able to have a decent naming convention so that we can find these emails in our DAM, and we can also find them in Marketing Cloud. So the right kind of naming convention, very important. So then we can reuse the emails, we can share across the 25 countries which we're supporting, but also your metadata in your DAM is not the same metadata that will be delivered in the asset that goes into your campaign. However, if there is a way to harmonize the metadata in your DAM attached to the various assets as close as possible to the metadata that goes across to your website or to your social media or to your emails, then that makes life much easier, because then you're able to join up the analytics in terms of performance and efficiency of generating content internally to performance efficiency of approval, and then also performance efficiency once that content ends with that consumer. And then as another tip for the audience, to get your way around a lot of the palaver that you'll be facing with the different dashboards, metrics and systems, there is a way you can route a lot of those dashboards once you've got them built through to Microsoft Teams. And that means anyone in the organization can access those, even if they haven't got those specific Power BI or other types of licenses. So that's just a general tip. And then finally, our dam practitioners will and do have quite an expertise for analytics, and there's a whole undiscovered field of internal analytics, ROI, content sharing linked to cost avoidance. And if your organization is able to demonstrate, I don't know, 15% cost, 15% content sharing, that will equivalent to millions of dollars over the period. And that positioning will really highlight the value which our dam practitioners are bringing to the table. So it's not just about, being a librarian and creating content. You guys can have a job for life and get pay rises if you play your cards right.
Super insightful. I want to move on to Q&A here quickly. Again, I would encourage the audience to put any questions into the box for us here. But as we're taking these questions in, Tom, Brad, anything to add on that, what you're hearing from your customers in terms of their appetite for leveraging DAM and related applications that may leverage the DAM versus potentially some other solutions that they may be considering at the moment? How have you seen that evolve?
So if you look at all the tools that are attached to a DAM, we of course have the PIM, but I think also a very interesting tool set is image optimization. There are a lot of tools out there that can help you automatically tone an image, automatically do cutouts, do tagging of images. So that's an interesting tool set to look into. And also, since the DAM is very interconnected, I think it's wise to invest in tools that allow you to quickly create these integrations. So we see a whole new breed of tools called so-called iPaaS, it's an integration platform as a service, that really make it very easy to quickly interconnect systems. So I think that's also an important component into your content orchestration strategy.
Great. Brad, anything before we move on? We've got one question in the box right now.
Yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy, right? Just to kind of reiterate what Tom's saying, right? I would say that we see a lot more AI, ML stuff that's coming out. So rather than providing more metadata, having machine learning and artificial intelligence kind of capture that stuff as it comes in, regardless if it's content in motion, right? Or still content, right? So there's lots of tools out there that can enrich the information, right? That can drive decision-making through those processes, right? So we see a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can also use that to enhance the content that you created a long time ago, which is maybe not up to date with the latest metadata.
Great. I want to move on to the question we have, and I'll open this up to the group, whoever would like to tackle it first. How have you kept up with the explosion in the demand for content with the onset of COVID and consumers being confined to home more over the last year and a half? Georgina?
I could take that, but I'll give Georgina a chance here because she's the one executing on it, but I can tell you some more about our customers.
Okay, great.
So for us, COVID has meant the DAM, like searches and downloads are about the same, but the users has increased by nearly 30%. So really it's just a lot of pressure on me to train people and make sure the system is tagged and monitoring that a lot more closely, because users, we've got people from board level now down to administrator level accessing content from the DAM. So yeah, there's definitely been a shift in the type of user that's accessing the DAM, and also the amount, because you can't pop over a desk and kind of ask your admin to get the assets for you, which has been the biggest shift for us for sure.
Yeah, and I'll chime in with a lot of our customers, right? I mean, it's a huge hockey stick, right? To the point where Carrie was saying, these things are content hungry applications, right? Now that we're sitting arguably at home a little bit, right, more, and now we're starting to open up a little bit. The campaigns have gotten, the pressure on executing on campaigns, especially in commerce, right, has gotten massive, right? Just as an example, right, we have a customer that produces over 45,000 variants a month, right, to push out to the wild, wild west and ad trafficking and things like that. and it makes a round trip from their dam system right to our system back into their dam system as child assets, where they could then start to do analytics of where these things worked, right? So the customers we see, between the testing, between the new campaigns, between product launches, and between the pressure, right, for e-commerce to perform, it's been a massive hockey stick over this pandemic.
Yes, and that's also what we see. So an important factor to invest in a dam is not only technology, but in fact is people. Is it allows you to work together, and that became much more complex when we were all at home. So you need to look into your processes, your content creation processes. And secondly, if you need to increasingly create content, so your content velocity goes up. But if your dam is sitting down in the basement and your end users are all working from home, maybe they cannot even reach your dam. So that's also what we saw, that customers that already invested in cloud technology, SaaS tools, they could easily transition to working from home, while others really struggled with this especially in the early months of COVID.
Gary, anything from your side on the COVID content needs and the demands that's placed on you?
Yeah, I'd agree entirely with what Tom, Brad, and particularly strongly with what Georgina has been saying. So when COVID arrived, of course, lockdown, folks working from home, but because we had a dam cloud capability, we were able to operate as far as the customer was concerned. One big change, which is what well, I'll say for Abbott, I'm finding it surprising that our marketing colleagues have a little bit of inertia when it comes to dam ownership, hands-on. And maybe it's a function of the fact that marketers traditionally, and I'm an ex-marketer, global marketing from GSK actually, had a traditional view of what they thought marketing was. But when I sit with marketing colleagues, I'm asking them, why is it our e-commerce colleagues are more concerned about the content than you are? Why is it not possible, as Georgina's mentioned, not to rely on the admin doing uploads and so forth, so that you can have ownership of what you are producing, spending money on, and learning more about calling some of the right sorts of shots. So that's where it's surprising, but maybe it's also a question of aptitude, because your marketer today has to have a strong branding side to them, a good element of PR experience, marketing, of course, but digital, the Salesforce Marketing Cloud, as well as DAM. So they've got to be much more multifaceted, and more often than not is a lesser priority with marketing colleagues, although it should be a higher priority. And I don't know if some of my colleagues here would agree. Your colleagues may be listening to this call, so you don't have to agree with me. I'll just put it out there.
Thanks. We've got 2 more questions here, and we've got about 5 more minutes left. Let's see, Tom, you may want to pick this one up. Thank you for the insightful presentation. Are you seeing dams with native connectors to different e-commerce platforms?
Native connectors are tricky, because you more than often there is no such thing as a one fits all. So you need to search for connectors that you can tailor to your specific workflows and needs, and really embed it in your way of working. So look for tools and dams and e-commerce platforms that have open APIs, which you can deeply integrate and connect, versus something that might work out of the box, but then it's not as efficient as it can be.
Makes sense. We've got another one here. What's the best capability do you think is underutilized today in the dam world? And I think that that probably is something that the entire group could probably chime in on here. Brad, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the two that come to mind is, I'll speak for Kerry because he's in a very governed environment, right? Is governance, right? Is that you need to govern these assets. And there's a lot of T's and C's that you have to tick off is a big one. And then to reiterate what Tom said, having an open API that you can integrate in allows you to do just about anything to your workflow, right? And orchestrate that content through kind of that whole content in motion stuff. So, you know, where you look at features and functions, does it do this? Does it integrate with that? Having that API available to do those types of things allows your teams to build, you know, whatever you need to solve your challenges and be very agile.
Yes, and also in the past you need trained developers to build these integrations, and with the rise of iPaaS, that is no longer required. So you can really click these integrations together, and this also makes it a lot easier to maintain them.
I mean, I have an affinity for the creatives too, so coming from where I'm at, so definitely, you know, creative too as well. So
yeah, and
Gina, Kerry.
Do go ahead, Georgie.
For us, I'd probably say it's reporting. There's so much data in the dam, and we have so much information about where the assets go to in terms of integrations. And I think it could really be leveraged a lot more in terms of how we spend on our content and how we look at what we spent, I think, as well, to both sort of retrospectively make sure we've done the right thing, and then in the future we're creating the right thing, depending on what people have used and what the uptake's been.
And Georgina, in that regard, do you have people with an appetite for that at the moment, or do you feel like that's something that needs to be stoked within the organization, maybe at the content creator or the publisher or the syndicator level?
Yeah, it's definitely growing. I think our director now is really keen to get those kind of reports on a monthly basis, and I think that really helps. I think if you've got a senior stakeholder who's bought into measuring teams on their content reuse and where their content spend is being used. So yeah, for us, it's a growing thing. I think there's still definitely parts of the marketing team that need to get behind it a bit more. But yeah, I think having that senior stakeholder is really helping us get behind that.
That's very, very diplomatic language, Georgina, having the marketing team get behind it. Absolutely. And I'd probably add to that exactly what Georgina is saying. So for the audience, and if you've got the analytics and you can actually measure it, you'll find that if you're starting out at sort of 8% sharing, 4% sharing, and then there's an aspiration to get to 15, 30% sharing, what you'll find if you run the calculations properly, you're looking at achieving anywhere between 3, 7, 8% of that entire marketing budget in terms of cost avoidance and sharing through reuse. So what you do is you get your numbers together, and it's fairly easy to calculate because you'll know the unit spend of some of these assets. If you get your marketing colleagues adding into your DAM what they've spent to produce some of these assets, then you go along to procurement and you say, procurement, here's how I can show you a way to meet your cost avoidance objectives. And then suddenly you're looking at tens of millions of dollars for the large organizations. And what it means is marketing or whoever is spending is not having that money taken away. It means they've got extra money to do more with. And then for procurement, it means they've been able to have help in determining what some cost avoidance metrics are due to the link between reuse as a percentage. So e-commerce and revenue goes hand in hand with reuse, and it's not very well understood yet that our DAM practitioners sit in a very important area in the industry. And if you get metrics and numbers together, you'll be able to demonstrate you're saving the organisation millions, which is much more than what your dam costs. So they'll give you lots of money to spend on new stuff as well.
I think that's a fantastic point to end on, Kieran. And we are out of time. We'd love to thank our panelists and attendees for joining today. Up next, join Life Picture Collection for using AI to empower creativity and bring archives to life here in track 2, or you can head over to track 1 for future-proofing video archives and the role of the dam and Evoke films. Again, would love to thank our panelists and our attendees. We do have one Q&A question that we have not gotten to around variants. I'm not sure if one of our panelists or any of you, Brad, this may be one you'd like to field, would like to jump in and take that directly. And again, would love to thank everyone for joining us today.